everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make a couple of cards using the thin cuts from the Aurora scrapbooking collection. I'm going to use the hexagon and the diamond, and then I'm going to use stamps from A Budding Friendship and Your Own Kind of Wonderful, as well as papers from Stitch Together. So let's get started. I'm going to pull out the hexagon, and I'm going to use the Stitch Together and the butterflies from Your Own Kind of Wonderful for the first card. So I'm kind of deciding where I want to cut my paper, and I'm looking at the design on the paper and making sure that I can get some of those butterflies and flowers that I like in the hexagon that I'm cutting out on my big shot. So I'm not sure how many I'm going to need, so I'm going to cut 3 from this blue background floral, and then I'm going to cut 2 from the quilted pattern paper. So we'll get those cut out. And then I'm going to use a piece of this UV coated paper from the Blue Skies collection. It's Canary, and the color that's in the Stitch Together collection is Lemonade, but it's close enough. I think it'll work. So I'm figuring out which direction I want it to go, and now I'm just kind of laying my hexagons out on this piece of cardstock to kind of figure out the placement and where I want them all to go. It's kind of like putting a puzzle together. So I'm just kind of moving them around until I like what I see, and I want to be able to leave some of that UV coated paper exposed so you can see it. So I'm just moving things around just to kind of see what I like. We're getting there. Okay, so now I'm going to cut a piece of white daisy. I'm going to cut a circle, and that's where my stamping is going to go. So I'm pulling a few of these butterflies out, and one of them has a background solid stamp, and then you can stamp the pattern on top of it. So that's why I stacked those two. Now I'm placing everything, my stamps, around on this circle just to figure out where I want my stamping to go. And I'm placing them, I know that I'm going to be chopping off the right side of that circle, so that's kind of why I'm clustering them on the left side of that card. Okay, so now I've seasoned them all, and I'm going to stamp them. The first stamp, the large butterfly, I'm doing that in Smoothie. And then we'll get that cleaned up, and then I'm going to stamp my sentiment, Happy Birthday, in Sapphire. Now I'm going to do my layered butterfly. The first layer, the background of it, is going to be in Mint. And then I'm going to do the textured or designed butterfly in Lagoon over it. And then I'm going to do one of the smaller butterflies in Canary. And I was thinking about using Candy Apple, but then I decided to use a second generation. First I was going to do Sapphire, and then I changed my mind. And then I decided on a second generation of Smoothie for that other small butterfly. Okay, so now I have my stamped panel there. So I decided that that larger butterfly needed a little color in it, and sadly this tool is no longer available. It's not made by Close to My Heart anymore. You can find similar ones. They're called blending brushes, and you can find other brands on Amazon. And all I'm doing is picking up ink from, I've squashed that ink pad to make kind of a puddle in the lid. And then I'm picking up ink with the blending brush and painting it in those open areas on the design. It's very subtle, but I like the look, so. And it's easy and quick, and you can use the same ink colors. So I've got that colored in. Okay, now that's finished. Now I've cut a larger circle to mat the stamped circle with, and now let's create our background. So I'm gluing all of my hexagons down onto that canary cardstock. And just getting them all placed down. And I'm leaving a little bit in between each of them, so that's why I'm kind of fussing with them to make sure they're straight and the amount of space looks right in between each of the hexagons. So I'm getting them all glued down. And I decided that since my circle is going to go there, that other hexagon wasn't needed because it would be covered up anyway. So then I just flipped the card over and I cut off the excess. And then I have my background piece. So now I'm going to glue my circle to the mat. And then I'm just holding it on that panel where I want it to go, and then I'm cutting off that edge. And then I decided that I wanted to pop it, so I cut out a piece of craft foam using the same circle die on the Big Shot. It will cut just fine. It's pretty thin, and so it works with your Big Shot and a die. And then I'm going to glue my matted piece to the background piece. Okay, and then I'm just setting a block on it so the glue will set up. And then I decided that I wanted this to be a top folding A2 size card, so I'm cutting a piece of white daisy at 4 1/4 by 11, and then I'm going to score it at 5 1/2 and fold it in half so that the fold is at the top of the card. And to finish it off, I decided to mat everything with another piece of sapphire. So there's a sapphire border around everything. And it has to have a little extra bling, so I got some bitty gems and silver gems, and I'm kind of scattering those around the card. Okay, so that's the finished card, and here's some close-up shots. I will make a list of all the supplies with links in the description below. I like the way this one turned out. Okay, let's make another one, and it's going to be the same design, but with the diamond shape instead of the hexagon. So I'm using papers from Stitch Together and also a piece of the mix-in papers. So I'm going to do the same thing and cut out my pattern papers with the diamond instead of the hexagon, and I'm kind of figuring out where exactly I want to place my diamond and trying to conserve some paper, but I wanted my pattern to go vertically, so that's what I did. And then the flip side of that paper is that candy apple with the little half circles, kind of little dome shapes. So I'm going to use those two patterns for the front of this card. So we'll get the last diamond cut out. I think 4 should work. Okay, now we'll get ready to cut our mix-in paper. And this is vanilla with small open circles. I'm cutting that at 4 by 5 1/4. Then I'm going to mat it on candy apple. Now that white circle that I had cut, I decided that since the mix-in paper is vanilla, I went ahead and cut another circle in vanilla cardstock just so that it matched. And then I'm cutting another piece of cardstock at 4 1/4 by 11, and I'm going to make a top fold card with that. Okay, so now let's stamp our little circle here, and I'm using the large flower from A Budding Friendship, and I'm going to ink that up in peach, and it's the same type of layering stamp, so the detail stamp will go over it. And I'm kind of lining that up before I load it on my block. And then I'm going to stamp that in Smoothie over it. Okay, and then I'm going to use the same happy birthday sentiment, and I'm going to stamp that in candy apple. And the placement of my stamping, it's intentional because I'm going to chop off the right side of that circle like I did with the other card. Okay, let's start building our card. I'm placing the diamonds for this background piece, kind of laying them out and figuring out where I want them to go. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing as I did with the other one and glue them down, and then flip the card and chop off the pieces that are hanging off the edge. And I'm doing the same thing. I'm leaving a little space in between each of the diamonds. So we'll get all these pieces down to make our background. Kind of like putting a puzzle together. Okay, so there's my background piece. And then we'll get everything layered onto the front of the card. Okay, so I'm getting my candy apple piece attached to my card front. And then my pattern piece that I created with a little border around it. And I chopped off the right side of that circle off camera. And I have a piece of craft foam that I've also cut. And I'm going to layer that circle on my card front and pop it with that craft foam. So it needs some extra bling too. So I'm going to bring in some bitty gems. And I'm going to cluster a whole bunch of them right in the center of that flower. And then I decided it needed even more shimmer. So I have a peach shimmer brush, and this one's new, so I'm kind of priming it and getting that barrel to fill up with the shimmer and getting it started. And then I'm going to paint each of these petals with the peach shimmer. And I'll skip ahead in a minute, and then I'll show you the finished card. I appreciate you spending some time watching my video today. I'll make a list of all the supplies that I used with links in the description below. Look at that shimmer. It looks so cool. If you haven't subscribed yet, I would really appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button. And thanks for watching.